Children look at the world in a way that nobody else can look at it. We sort of forget that as adults. They see things for exactly what they are, and they're not afraid to tell you. As a parent and as a teacher and as a director, I think the early intervention is critical. I was the parent of a young lady who had a learning disability, and early intervention was huge and life-changing for her. We can help children to walk into elementary school feeling confident. We need to offer them those tools to do that, and I think Ages and Stages is one of them. It's easier for teachers to implement in the classroom. Many of the other tests were very, very time-consuming for teachers to use. This one was rather quick and gave a wonderful snapshot of children and their development.
Ages and Stages works because it's a whole team involvement. You're integrating both parents, the student, the teachers, everyone gets involved and is working for the greater good of the child.
It opened a door for parents to be able to communicate with teachers on the same level. They were both looking at the same document.
The teachers and the parents do the same activities at home and at school, and then they come together and meet and talk about the results. I felt very successful with it, using it as a teacher and being able to talk parent to parent with other parents about their child.
They sent home the Ages and Stages questionnaire for the parent to fill out with an information sheet on the front, kind of explaining that we would complete it at home and then the teachers would complete it at school and we would discuss them at the conference.
I love having the parents involved because they really enjoy doing the activities with their child.
And I like that he didn't feel on the spot, like it wasn't a pressure thing. We had fun doing it.
I think Ages and Stages is right for you because it is engaging and it's activity-based, and it gives you a scoring sheet that shows where kids are that's easy to communicate with parents.
It's so amazing to make a difference in children and families' lives. So when we can get early intervention into a child's life, we can make that life-changing impact.
Hi, Ronnie. Thanks for joining us. I'm happy to have you here. I'm going to back up a few slides and kind of introduce, and the video does a really good job of introducing the Ages and Stages questionnaire, what it is. And that's what this presentation is about. It's about using the Ages and Stages questionnaire, the ASQ. And to kind of introduce that, so my name is Sarah Armconnect, and I work at Help Me Grow Utah, and the ASQ is a tool we use a lot at our organization to help connect families with child development resources and help them learn more about that. And to start, I'd love to kind of touch base on the topic of screening in general, because the ASQ is a developmental screening tool. So I wanted to start with this question of what is screening and why is it important? And I would love if you would like to share your thoughts on this question. If you have any background information about screening, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyone who's here about what screening is, why this is something that's important to talk about. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? And if not, that is okay. We will. This is what we're talking about today. That we'll jump into that. But feel free to share ideas in the chat or to unmute and share your thoughts here. And if there's nothing anyone wants to add on that, I can share some of my thoughts. So screening is a way to spot potential delays early. It's a quick check on development. Most people will be familiar with the Learn the Signs Act Early campaign. The idea behind that is that the earlier we can find things that might need support for a child, the earlier we can help them get on track and help their development throughout the course of their life. And that really is why we are talking about screening. We want to support children and families early on so that they can have the best outcomes. It helps to spot those potential delays early. It's also a really great tool for sharing information between a parent and a provider. And one important note on screening is that it's different from an assessment. A lot of times families will think that, you know, this is an assessment, and it's not. It's just um, a quick check, a way to see trends, see what might need more support, but it's not a diagnosis. It is a great starting point, though. Does anyone have any other thoughts on screening, and what you've seen in your work about why this is important? And if not, that is okay. Feel free to share though as we go through this presentation. I'd love to hear other thoughts on that. I played this video a little earlier, so we'll skip this for now. But if anyone is interested in learning in seeing more about this, these videos are on agesandstages.com. They've got a lot of great resources. And this video actually is in one of the links on under resources in this meeting. So you can find it there as well, if you missed it when I played it earlier. But why do we screen? We mentioned that screening is a quick check on child development, right? Just a way to see where children are at developmentally. And I think this is a great picture to kind of demonstrate, you know, what's the point? What are we looking for here? Um, I think, you know, a lot of people in this field will recognize this, where there are going to be children that you work with where they are doing great and you can tell they're doing great. And there are other children that you work with where it's, you know, there's things that kind of tip you off that they might need more support in certain areas. But there is that middle group there where um, it's not clear. You can't really tell that they need more support. You can't tell what areas they need more support in, and that's why we screen. We screen for that middle group that would be underdetected. We wouldn't know that they need that support, that we wouldn't be able to catch early on those things that we can further support them later in life to thrive. Uh, so on with screening, we talked about how it's important. Is a really great way to get that snapshot of child development. Why do you think it's important to have families be involved in the screening process? And again, I'd love input. You can put it in the chat, or you can unmute and share. I'd love to hear your thoughts on why it's important to have families be involved. And you can also just think about it. Think about it in what you've seen in your work of why this might be important. Um, some of the reasons that I think it's really important that we've talked about. Um, One of the goals that a lot of programs have is to increase family engagement, and this is something that can help with that. You want families to be engaged and involved in a child's development. On that same vein, this is a great way to help children, help families learn more about milestones, help to um, celebrate with families what their child can do. It's really cool to see. You know, I've helped with some screenings with different families. I've heard stories from different people also about how often there will be someone doing a screening and there will be an item on the screening that they'll just be like, I didn't even think to check if my child could do that. That wasn't even something that I thought to even be aware of at this time. So that's a really cool thing, I think, about screenings, about what they can do. They can help families learn about what their child is capable of. And another reason we want families involved is, no matter what our role is with children, with families, families are going to see a different perspective than what we see. They they know their child in a way that we don't, and we want them involved so we can get that whole picture of child development. Um, the last point I have up here, any intervention will be more successful with the family on board. If there is a child that needs more support, that support is going to need the family involvement. Um, Doing a screening is a great way to kind of introduce that topic and help them be on board, help them feel like they are part of this process from the very beginning. Does anyone have anything they want to add? Any thoughts on that? That's okay. I have a few quotes from Help Me Grow parents. That's where I'm from, Help Me Grow Utah. Um, we do these screenings a lot with the families we work with, and we have some quotes kind of thrown into um, for the purpose kind of to show that these screenings matter. They they really can be very helpful. So this quote says, "They helped me to understand what to expect from my baby and how to encourage his development. It helped me to be more patient with him because I understood better where his development was at." And I love this quote. I think it's a really great example of what just knowing more about development can do, can help a parent, can help empower them to feel like they know more about their child's development also. Okay, we have a short little game that I hope you guys find fun, interesting, to kind of guess where you think these ASQ items come from. I put the intervals that the ASQ3 has at the top there, and there will be a few of these questions, and I'd love for you to guess about where you think that ASQ item would fall on these intervals. So the first one, does your baby say three words such as mama, dada, and baba? And a word is a sound or sounds your baby says consistently to mean someone or something. So about what age do you think you would start expecting to see that in child development? You can feel free to put guesses in the chat if you want. Um, and we will, I'll show you the answer in just a minute. Okay, hopefully that was enough time to make a guess. So the answer though is the earliest interval it's on is the 9-month questionnaire, and the oldest is the 14-month questionnaire. So that's about the age where you would see this milestone. The next one we have is without holding on to anything for support, does your child kick a ball by swinging his leg forward? I'll give you a minute to kind of guess. What age do you think you would see that? Hopefully that was, oh, we have a guess. Um, 16 months. Oh, awesome. Oh, and above that, I think I missed Ronnie's 18 months. Awesome. 18 months, 16 months. Let's see. Okay, so the earliest one you see that on is the 24 months, up to 36 months. The next question, using child-safe scissors, does your child cut a paper in half on a more or less straight line, making the blades go up and down? Uh, so where do you think that would fall? I've got a 36 months guess. 36 months. Okay, let's see. 48 months is the youngest, with 54 and 60 months. But I love these guesses. These are awesome. And it's hard to know what to expect. The next one, I think I've got a couple more. Does your child get a spoon into her mouth right side up so that the food usually doesn't spill? 24 months. Good guess. 16 months. Okay, let's see. Uh, 18, 20, and 22 months. So you guys were both right there, kind of bookending where that is. Um, this one, I think, blew my mind when I first realized 18 months is when you expect to see that. Uh, it's it feels so young, but that's where it falls on these screenings. Can your child string small items such as beads, macaroni, or pasta wagon wheels onto a string or shoelace? 36 months? 36 months? Okay. And that was right on for part of that. It goes from 22 months to 36 months for where you would find that question on the screenings. And this is the last one. Does your child skip using alternating feet? 48 months? 42 months. Okay, both good guesses. This one is 60 months. This is one we only see on that oldest interval. Thank you both for engaging in that game. I think it's fascinating to see these these different milestones that that children can be reaching at these different ages. So thank you both for doing that. Hopefully you feel like you learned something about those milestones, something new that you might not have expected. Um, so with that, we're going to jump into more information about the ASQ specifically. So we've talked about screening in general. These are some features of the ASQ specifically as a screening tool. So the ASQ stands for Ages and Stages Questionnaire, and this is an evidence-based screening tool that promotes parent engagement and early detection of areas of concern. So it's like we've talked about, it's a screening tool to see early on how children are doing in their development. There are two different types of screening. The ASQ3, which goes over general development, and the ASQ SE2, which is about social emotional development. And both of these screenings, they go over, they help to get a whole picture of child development. One question that sometimes people have is what those numbers mean, the 3 and the 2, and those just refer to the version of the screening they're on, which point they're at with publishing the ASQ and the ASQ-SE. So they've had 3 versions of the ASQ and they've had 2 of the ASQ-SE. So that's what those stand for. Um, Here is some information about the ASQ. I mentioned in the last slide, uh, it's a research-based tool, and this research has been going on for many years. The idea started in the 1970s, and then since then, it's been under research. Basically, they gathered information. The first edition of the ASQ came out in 1995, with the first edition of the ASQ SE coming out in 2002. And since then, they've just continued to improve upon them, continue to make them more representative of the world we are in now, of the world that we're seeing, and how demographics change and how what we expect of these milestones. They're continuing to do research today to make these better and better. And for a side-by-side comparison of what these screenings look like, what they are and what they look like, um, I mentioned before the ASQ3 goes over general development and the ASQ SE2 goes over social and emotional development. And they're built similarly in many ways, but there are some key differences. For the ASQ3, the items on the questionnaire are questions about a child's ability to perform certain activities. You saw in those examples from the game that we did, those are the kind of questions that come from the ASQ3. For the ASQ SE2, the items are questions about a child's normal behaviors. So that is a little bit different from the ASQ3. Instead of, can your child do this? It's, does your child usually do this? And for the ASQ3, it has 5 areas of development that it covers, and the questions are split into these 5 different areas, and those are communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, and personal social. Um, And for the ASQ SE2, there are 7 different areas that the questions come from, but they're not split into those different areas. Um, there are, you know, you're going to see different things in different ages, but those areas of development are self-regulation, compliance, adaptive functioning, autonomy, affect, social communication, and interaction. Um, and part of the reason, like what I like to think about for why they're not split into different sections, they're all just kind of combined. Some of those areas, like for example, autonomy, you wouldn't expect to see autonomy at all in a newborn, in a 2-month-old, while a 5-year-old, you would expect to see some autonomy there. So that's kind of one way I like to look at for these different areas. It's going to look different for different ages, and so they're not split into different things, but those are the areas of development that the questions come from. Um, for the ASQ3 um, and the ASQ SE2, they both have an overall section after these the questions that come from those areas, and those overall sections have spots for open-ended comments from the parents, and the place for parents to put concerns that they might have about their child's development. And both screenings go from 2 months to 60-month intervals. Those are the youngest intervals at 2 months, the oldest is at 60 months. Those windows of administration are a little bit different though. So for the ASQ3, the oldest that a screening can be administered is just under 66 months, while the oldest an ASQ SE2 can be administered is just under 72 months. And another difference between the two screenings is for the ASQ3, the no concern is the highest, typical, everything's on track development are the highest scores, whereas for the ASQ SE2, the lower scores are the scores with no concern. So you read them a little bit differently, but they've got a lot of similarities as well. And with both of these screenings, the goal for both of them is to identify children who can benefit from greater support, and to offer that support, to find ways to help these children thrive. And the focus of the screenings are different, general development versus social emotional development, but used together, they really give a fuller picture of child development and can help pinpoint how things are going for that child. And another note about using these screenings, a lot of times in the roles that we're in, we might be working with children who are too young to use words to tell us what might be going on. These screenings can help us focus on their nonverbal communication, help us see what they might be saying without words, what might be drawing attention to with the tools they have. All right, this is a couple of pages of 2 separate screenings, actually, both ASQ3s though. The one on the left is from the 24-month questionnaire, and the one on the right is from the 54-month questionnaire. And you can kind of see how the screening is built with, on these pages. Both, so the screening is split into those 5 different sections, right, that we went over. You can see 3 of them labeled there. And each section will have 6 questions per section. And the parent can go and mark yes, sometimes, or not yet about the child's ability to complete that item. And based on those scores, you would get a score for that section. If you have more questions about what this looks like, I believe in the resources, what an example ASQ3 might look like, in the resources on this meeting, also there is a link to a sample ASQ3. I think there might be a couple linked there, but I think one of the links might not actually work as well. So there's at least one though. So you can see a sample ASQ3. And this is what an ASQ SE2 looks like. Again, they're 2 pages from 2 different screenings, but they're not split into those different areas like the ASQ3 was. And it just has, questions about a child's normal behavior, how they normally interact. And instead of yes, sometimes, or not yet, the answers that the parent can mark are often or always, sometimes, or rarely or never. And then you'll see a fourth column there with a little check if this is a concern. And what that does is that just adds a little bit more weight to that item. If the parent has a concern, or a parent or caregiver has a concern about that kind of behavior, and allows whoever is administering this, the provider, you to look at that a little more closely and talk about that with the parent who had that concern. Um, all right, we have another brief game, where now that we've gone over the difference between the ASQ3 and the ASQ-SE2, we've got a few items that come from either the ASQ3 or the ASQ-SE2, and w- the goal is for you to guess which one it comes from. Um, and this can be tricky. Like we said, they all go to a full picture of child development. So there are some things that sometimes feel like they overlap a little bit. Um, but we'll see how this goes. So the first question, does your child check to make sure you are near when exploring new places such as a park or a friend's home? So what do you think? Was that ASQ3, general development, or the ASQ SE2 with social emotional development? You've got an SE2 guess. Give another few seconds. Yes, that one is an ASQ SE2. Good job. The next question, does your baby feed himself a cracker or a cookie? ASQ3. ASQ3, yep. Yes, you guys got that one. Also, good job. All right, the next one. Does your child settle herself down after exciting activities? C2. You guys are spot on so far. Good job. You're doing great. Um, all right, the next one. Does your baby let you know when she is hungry, tired, or uncomfortable? For example, does she fuss or cry? Okay, two guesses of ASQ3. This one is actually ASQ SE2. And like we said before, there is some overlap between them, so it can be hard sometimes to figure out which one is which. That was a good guess. All right, next one. Does your baby help turn the pages of a book? Yep, you guys got that one. ASQ3. Does your baby like to be picked up and held? ASQ2. Yeah, awesome. You guys did really well. And I think it's kind of fun to know and learn the differences of what we're looking at in each of these screenings. And like I said, there is some overlap between them. We're looking at child development, and it's not really, you can't really separate all the time one thing from another. But together they really do paint a fuller picture of the child's development. So this quote is about the ASQ as well. And the parent says, as a parent, I'm always wondering if kids are on track or if the behaviors they are exhibiting are normal or worrisome. This has been helpful to answer some of my questions and ease my worries. And that's another benefit of doing these screenings is just to sometimes it's just nice for the parents to have some kind of guideline of what they can expect from their child. Um, And on that note, here are some other benefits to children and family for using the ASQ. Um, one of the one of the great things is that parent engagement leads to more activities for child development in the home. When parents are learning about these milestones and excited about these milestones, then they might also be more excited about uh, doing more developmental activities. That's actually one of the things that the ASQ offers also is it offers some developmental activities for each interval for each age. So this is a great way to help parents be more involved with that. This is also a great way to celebrate a child's progress. We want to celebrate where children are at, where they're going, and celebrate the things they can do. It's exciting. It's exciting to see these things. This is also a great opportunity for parents to discuss concerns if they have any. Even with that last quote where the parent says that she was concerned maybe, and but it was nice to have that guideline of knowing what to expect. And this can be a great opportunity for that. Even if their child is screening for on track development, this is a great option and a great opportunity for them um, to talk about things that they might have been concerned about. It's also a great way to reassure parents if they have those worries, so that they know what to expect and they know what they're seeing. This is also a great way to educate parents about development to help them. Like this is all in the same track, the same idea of help them know what to expect, help them to be prepared. Um, this is also if there is a concern, maybe something that would need a further referral, um, further help. This is a great way to begin that process um, earlier on. If there's areas of concern, you're doing the screening, kind of pinpointing this is an area that we might want some help with, can set people on the right track of how to get further help in that area. Um, and can help also help families to get other resources that they might need if we're able to pinpoint what those needs are. Um, when we are helping children do when we're doing these screenings with children, we can help learn more about that child. These screenings can help predict a child's ability to pay attention and socialize and their ability to regulate. So these screenings can help children early on in life um, to be on track for development in the future. Um, in addition to being beneficial for children and families, which is one of the biggest reasons we're doing this is we want to help children, we want to help families. Um, there are also benefits for childcare providers for using the ASQ. One and early educators for using the ASQ. When we are using these screenings in your programs, um, it can start the conversation with parents about child development. If you're not sure how to talk about those things with parents, this is a great way to begin talking about it. And with that next bullet point, normalizing screenings to if this is something that we're doing universally, which is something we recommend, we recommend screenings be universal. So if you're doing that with every child in your program, it can keep parents from feeling like you're singling out their child. If you want to have these conversations about development, this is a really great way to open that door to start talking about how the kids are doing. Now, this is also a great way to help find activities and staff training, areas that might need more focus. If you're doing these screenings, you might see how children are doing, what their needs are, and you can focus your efforts on those things. It also is a great way to that basis for supporting families to help build that relationship with the families and help grow grow in that relationship and support them. And can all the last one there kind of goes with the earlier one of the needs for the staff training. It can also help um, support support the childcare staff. Um, in talking about reasons that are this is beneficial for providers to use the ASQ, um, one of the cool things that the state of Utah is to the Office of Child Care, they've recognized that these screenings are important and that they can benefit children and families, and they recognize it and feel so strongly about it that they've put it on the quality system, CCQS, a childcare quality system. If you are doing screenings, you get if you're doing any screenings, you get a point. But if you are using the ASQ screening tools, you get more points than you would even with any other screening. So this is something that's even been built into that quality system scoring. Um, that there will be more points associated with the ASQ. And with that being said, with noting that the state of Utah feels like it's important, this is something that they've been working on for a while. This initiative they have to get more screenings done. It's called the Celebrate the Stages Initiative, and it is statewide. The goal is to have that coordinated screening program between um, providers in the state of Utah. And what that looks like, when we say that it's coordinated, and we're doing it between different partners, there's going to be some permissions involved with that, right? Um, and this is what that looks like, where the parent is the first person who sees the screening. They have to be the one to give permission, right? The parent is the one to give permission. And in order to even participate in the screenings, they have to give permission for the provider, the one offering the screenings, to see the screening, to store the screening. In order to even participate, that's something that has to happen. They have to give permission for that. The second level of permission is an optional one, though. They have to give permission for the provider. They don't have to give permission for the next part. But if they give permission for the second level of permission there, um, what that does is allows the de-identified information from the screenings to be shared with the Department of Health and Human Services so that they can track trends across the state of Utah, so they can see how kids are doing. They can run reports and see how things are going with children in Utah as a whole. The other thing that it would allow is the state of Utah is working on this system called the CHARM system, which would allow any authorized user, so anyone who has access to a child's vaccination record, could also have access to a child's screenings. And the goal with that is that a parent wouldn't do a screening at the doctor's and at their childcare, but they could do it in one place, and then whoever is working with that child would be able to see that screening, and so whoever is on their team would be a team together. They would all be involved in that process. And this is what those look like, what those permissions look like for the parent. This is that first level of permission, where they have to, if they're doing the screenings through ASQ Online, which is one of the tools offered by the state, if people are involved in this project. So if they see this and if they want to do the screening, they have to agree to let their provider see the screening and store the screening, to even continue it and do it. This is the second level of permission, where if they say yes to all of these items, then they would be agreeing to let the DHHS use the de-identified data and to share with that CHARM system that I mentioned. They can say no, though, and if they say no, that's totally fine. They can still continue and do the screening, just sharing with their provider. Um, so why is this a push? Why is this something that the state is doing? I kind of touched on some of these already, but they want to understand more about things that affect child development, demographics, geographic areas. What is going into child development? They also, that skipping a bullet point, they want to see what interventions are improving, if any interventions are working, if they're making a difference. And we do want to get a baseline for children's mental health. They want to see, get a baseline for development in many different areas, see how things are going. And with that charm system that I mentioned, they also want to minimize duplicated efforts. They want to have it be more efficient. They want it to be something that is a system that really works better together. In case you are interested in what kind of data might be shared, if you got an account, an ASQ account, and joined in this statewide collaboration, this is kind of what that would the kind of data that can be gathered and can be shared um, through an ASQ online account. You could see which kind of screenings have been done month by month, and then a total kind of how you've been using screenings. This one is, it would look a little different from what an individual provider would look like, but there is a lot of data that can be seen, can be shared. It's a lot of cool information. And if any of you, either of you, are interested in seeing what a screening might look like from a parent's perspective, um, you can use this QR code. This goes to a Sandbox account. It goes to my Sandbox account. I have an account, so you wouldn't want to do a real screening on here, but you could see from a parent's perspective if you scan this, and feel free to do so. You can see where a parent would enter the information for their child, and how it would take them to a screening after that. And so if you wanted to be part of this program to get screenings, um, you could have your own link, individual link for your program that families could go to, and it would take them to a screening that would go directly back to you as a provider. I'll give you another couple seconds to scan this if you're interested, um, and then I will move on. Okay. So if you are interested in joining this statewide initiative, being part of this, um, there are a few steps to it that are involved. It's a pretty simple process. And the first step is meeting with me. I work specifically with childcare providers to help them get access to the ASQ. That's my job, is to help childcare providers get access to and use the ASQ. So the first step is to meet with me. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to meet with you about that. Um, and we kind of cover what's involved in this process. Um, Another step towards getting access to these screening tools is to be trained in how to use the ASQ. There are a couple of different options for that. They're free. There are things that Help Me Grow Utah offers, the organization I work for. Um, and I think the next slide has some more information about what those training options are. Um, After you receive training, we'll also ask you to create an ASQ implementation plan. And the reason for that is we um, want to make sure you know how to move forward. If we give you these screening tools, we want you to know how you want to use them. And so that's the goal for the implementation plan, is to um, have have you as providers know how to move forward with those screenings. Um, and then there's also an enrollment form to be part of this project. And after we have all those steps done, then we would deliver your ASQ kits and set up an ASQ online account with you. So pretty straightforward process for getting access to the screening tools. And like I said, there are some free options for the training that are offered through Help Me Grow Utah. Um, so one of those options is a virtual live training um, that takes place. We do them about once a month, and you can sign up for them on our website, our Help Me Grow Utah website, and I've put that information there. Um, and if you like to sign up for classes on Care About Childcare, we also have them. You can sign up for it on Care About Childcare. If you do it that way, you'll need to do a second step of completing the Zoom registration so that you can actually join the meeting at the time. Um, and if a virtual live training doesn't work for you, we also have a self-paced webinar training, which you can reach out to me for details about. And again, all of these options are free. Um, and I mentioned before, part of this process is you get access to an ASQ online account as well, and that's individual to your program. If you send families that link that I had that QR code for my sandbox, it would take them to screenings that would go directly back to you. Um, and this is a really great option. I think it's very convenient. Like I showed you with the QR code, this is a way parents can do screenings on their phone. They can do it wherever they're at. So I think ASQ Online is a really convenient, really cool option. And I'm happy to share more information with you about those, what that looks like if you're interested. Um, and on that note, part of my job is also um, to offer support if you have questions about um, if you get access to the ASQ tools and you're using ASQ online and you have a question about it, that's part of my job is to help you figure that out. And to offer training on lots of different aspects of the ASQ. So feel free to reach out to me. And in addition to that, we also have a parent support staff. That's really what Help Me Grow does. At the core of what we do is we help connect parents with resources. And so if you are working with a family and you're not sure what kind of resources they might need, feel free to refer them to us. And that's again, that's what we do. And or if you are interested in, if you want to make those referrals, you're welcome to give me a call and I will um, help gather some of that information and help send it back to you so you can talk about it with the family. Um, and there are some of the organizations how you can reach us on the screen there. Um, and here are the contacts for this project. Again, I'm Sarah. You feel free to reach out to me through phone, text, or email. Um, and if you are interested in um, working with someone who speaks Spanish, that is my coworker Amanda. She works with our Spanish speaking providers. And you can also reach out to Kathleen Brown, who is the OCC program specialist for this. And I see in the chat we have a question. Um, it's a great screening program. Could you email or share with me the training options I need to train processors of the screening? Yes. If you want to send me your email, I can send you more information about that. Also, this slide, the whole presentation should be accessible through. There are meeting resources that should be on there. But yes, send me your email and I will, or if you want to send me an email through on my email right there, feel free to do that. And I would love to share more information about that with you. Um, okay, awesome. And I will copy that. And if anyone has any other questions, that's the end of my presentation. So feel free to ask. Now's the time. And if not, thank you both for being here. I hope it was helpful. I'm just glad to have you here and have your participation. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Are the screeners designed to be filled out by just the parent or as a discussion between the parent and provider? Good question. So the way they're designed, the ASQ3 is truly it's designed as a parent completed tool. Um, That doesn't mean providers can't fill out one also to compare and contrast. Um, I think that's a great practice is to have, the parent fill one out, the provider fill one out, see what you're seeing from different sides and talk about it together. Because even though it's built to be a parent completed tool, they're not going to see the results unless a provider shares the results with them. So the discussion is an important part of this process of sharing those results with the parents. The ASQ SC2 though, on the other hand, is actually built to be completed by anyone who spends 15 to 20 hours a week with a child. So, and if you think about, child behavior, that is kind of a subjective thing, right? So if you're talking about a child and how they're behaving, that might look different in different environments. So that's kind of built into the screening, how they created it, so that it could be filled out by multiple providers, and so that you could say, we're seeing this kind of behavior in this environment, and this kind of behavior in this environment. What does that mean? So yes, they're designed to be parent completed. It's it's not bad. It's maybe even encouraged to have multiple providers fill out screenings, so you can talk about those things. Does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. Let me know if you have any other questions, and thank you for joining. It's great to have you guys here.